Oh, he's just sort of befuddled, you know. Hello, sweet. Oh, we love you. He did real good. Oh, we all
have
love
to get
you.
used to these faces.
Yeah. Oh, he likes it.
There's a lot of people that have waited years and years and have gotten a child. It's really rewarding.
And most rewarding it was for Buffalo Insurance Executive James Glose and his wife, attorney Linda DeTine. Little Max, their adopted Korean son, is about to meet his new grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins for the very first time. This was the scene at Buffalo's International Airport during the 1989 Christmas season.
There are quite a few people who are looking to adopt. They do not have children, and instead of going through all of the medical technology, they decide to adopt instead.
Jeffrey Buxton knows what he's talking about. These lovely teenage twin girls were adopted from Korea by the Buxtons when only infants. He also is the president of a local adoptive parent group known as FIA, Families Interested in Adoption.
In our organization, we have all forms. We have private adoption, we have adoption through New York State, and we have foreign adoption.
Dave and Trudy Martin enlisted the services of FIA. They adopted Jill from Korea, despite the fact that they already had 2 biological sons.
Well, we wanted to be sure that we were going to have a girl.
We applied to an agency that adopted children out of Korea, and she was almost 4 months old when she came, which is one of the youngest children at that time, because usually by the time they got their visa and their passports and everything to come over, it was taking at least 6 months.
Could you have a choice of a boy and a girl?
At that time, yes.
Okay.
It's a little more difficult today. Many of the agencies are telling the people you can't choose the sex.
That you can give a preference, but you have to be willing to accept either, sex.
That was 13 years ago, and the Martin family of 5 would soon grow to 7 with the adoption of 2 white American children, 9-year-old Wayne and his 6-year-old sister, Brandy.
I guess I always felt the Lord was going to send us more than 3 kids. I just felt that we were supposed to have more kids. And being very active in adoption and foster care, we're well aware of the need for homes for children. And so we went through the New York State Blue Books, and we're looking for children through that avenue.
Oftentimes these children are children who have been abused, neglected, or have physical handicaps that in many cases the parents are unable to cope with. And so they just desire to maybe give them up, and hopefully a family will, love them enough to, deal with that.
Marie Manikowski is president of a local adoptive parent support group called Hours Through Adoption. The mother of 2 Korean children explains why adoptions are on the rise.
Because infertility problems are on the rise. I think women are waiting longer to have children and therefore entail a lot more problems. And as a result, adoption's their only option.
Where do most of the adoptions through your organization come from?
Korea, India, and now South America.
Richard and Mary Ellen Dunn already had a biological son when they went to the Hours organization to acquire Margaret Shanty from India 5 years ago. She was only 8 weeks old and weighed 6 pounds.
I think we wanted a second child, and we weren't going to have one on our own. And it took us a number of years to realize this, I think, and to accept this. And then adoption seemed to be the option at that point.
For our age, we decided that it would be easier to adopt from a foreign country where the wait was anywhere from 1 to 3 years.
Some foreign children are adopted in 6, 8 months. When you're talking about local children, that can vary from a year, if you're very lucky, to 4, 5, 6 years.
Oh my goodness.
Unless you're talking about a private adoption.
What is the status of white American babies?
There's not too many of them available. And if they are, it would probably be through a private adoption.
And minority American babies?
They're probably available too, but then there's restrictions in New York State. They'd have to be placed within a minority family.
The less expensive is the New York State waiting child. The costs incurred are only the lawyer's cost for the finalization. The foreign children range in, $10,000 to $17,000.
The new parents recall some of the highs and lows they experienced during the adoption process.
I would say that there was a lot of red tape that we had to go through that we had to be very patient about.
It took us 2 years, which seemed like an awful long time as we were going through it. I didn't think it was ever going to happen.
We needed character references and just a lot of paperwork, but it's just step by step, really.
If the wife is very interested in adoption and the husband isn't, you know, they'll pick this up and say, well, maybe this isn't the best time for you to be adopting if you're not both wanting to do this.
And just what kind of cultural shock can be expected when becoming a biracial family?
We're an Irish family way back on both sides, and all of a sudden we have an Indian child, and I think some of the family are...
It was an adjustment,
yeah.
I think. They don't exactly didn't know what to think at first. They were glad for us because they knew we wanted a second child.
When you see your child every day, you don't visualize them as being Oriental or a different culture than you. They pick up your mannerisms, they act just like you. They become part of your family.
We were well aware that there was a large Korean community in Buffalo, so we didn't think there would be as much of a culture shock as far as we were concerned.
Most people's remark was, oh, they're twins. Not that they were biracial, that they were twins.
And finally, a message for those who may be interested in adoption.
If it isn't an infant that is available, there's a little older child maybe that would fit into your home. So there's a child for every family.
Anybody could really do it, and you wind up getting what you want at the end. You do all the paperwork and you get the child at the end. It's worth the effort.
I would say think about it real hard, and once they do make up their minds, go for it, because they'll get a child.
There are many people who have adopted and have adopted for many years, and they are part of the family.